Hello and welcome. Today we have the great pleasure of having Dr. Nishamanek with us. I'm super excited to have her here to speak about all the things that she's very, very, very much into, which are things that I'm also very much into, because what we have in common is the idea of bridging spirit and science. Um, I don't know if we spoke before, but I I started exploring my spiritual journey through uh, quantum physics in high school. Like when the teacher was teaching us about all of that, it started making sense to me in a kind of religious way, which I wasn't religious when I was young, um, but we can get into that in a few minutes. I'm just going to introduce Dr. Nisha to the audience. She's a fellow of the American College of Physicians and the Royal College of Physicians of the UK, and she wrote this incredible book called Bridging Science and Spirit: The Genius of WilliamATiller's Physics and the Promise of Information Medicine. So this is going to be amazing. As I was just speaking, I'm super into the idea of science and spirituality finally reconnecting and giving each other a big hug. And I think your work is going to help us explore that. Um, how are you, Nisha? Oh, and
Hey, good
also,
morning, Rafa.
good morning,
Happy New
Nisha.
Year from California.
Yes, exactly. Today is the first day of the 2021 of this new
Yes.
year, which it's a year we have lots of expectations for, and I think it's going to be a very interesting year. How are you?
I am so delighted to be with you this morning, Rafa. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. Um, I found about you on another podcast, and immediately I felt this affinity with you, and just like the way you explain things, your personality, your energy. So I was immediately, I have to connect with her, and yeah, I did some looking and found a way to get in touch with you, which was amazing, and I'm so happy today to have the opportunity to go into so many beautiful topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rafa, you're talking about your intention.
Mm.
You followed your intention and you didn't give up. And it took us a while to really connect and through messages and different ways of technology, but here we are. So our intention is very important and yours has manifested. And it's a real gift because you're bringing a very timeless message to the listeners of your podcast in Uruguay. So I want to acknowledge that.
Yes, and well, it's been uh, an incredible journey for me. This creation of the podcast and just having the self confidence, to
Mhm.
like explore all the different kind of ideas that interest me, that have interested me for so long. And I remember for a long time feeling kind of alone in all this, and podcast was something that helped me very much. It was like a companionship that I found in different podcasts, and yeah, and today to have the opportunity to be on this side and share new ideas and people like yourself with. I mean, it's very unique for me to be speaking with a doctor that is also interested in people's habits and in people's
Mhm.
consciousness and their intention in the in the in looking to improve people's health, because generally, and I recently had this happen in the doctor. They're like, oh, okay, so for example, I went to have a blood test,
Mhm.
and and he sent the test, but I asked him to check my vitamins and all that. And then when I got the results back, it actually, he hadn't prescribed the thing for the vitamins. So I'm gonna have to do it again. And even though we were speaking about how important it is, because I'm a vegetarian, to check all those things, and
Yes.
when I spoke with him, when he actually sent the blood test, he didn't send the thing for that. So I mean,
Yes.
it's kind of like you feel sometimes when you go to the doctor, like you're in a, like they're not particularly interested in you. You know, they have a very
Yes.
limited time perhaps to talk with you.
Yeah, well, Rafa, you're reflecting on the system. The medical system has somehow lost its way. It has lost its way. Certainly in America, we have tremendous technology. We have tremendous lab testing and radiology. We analyze the body. We take pictures of the body. We take MRI of the body. But we have forgotten the holistic human with the heart and soul that is in front of us. And it is not just the chemistry. Rafa, what makes you Rafa is much, much greater. The energetics, the information, the soul self. And in medicine, we have become, I would say, even seduced by the body. But Rafa's body is not Rafa, because Rafa's consciousness, when your body drops away and my body drops away, survives. And that evidence of consciousness surviving physical death is in front of us, and it's in the relics of the Buddha, which was stunning to me as a medical doctor to see them and realize, oh my God, that consciousness does not need a brain. Consciousness is not locked in here. I'm pointing to my head. That consciousness is unbounded. It is beyond space and it is beyond time. Okay? So that quality of consciousness we must begin to realize and drop certain notions. We are forced to confront this. And in medicine, I think we will get there. And it is urgent now because we're put ourselves in a corner all the time. Chemistry, chemistry, chemistry. But we're much more than chemistry reactions. And I think I really respect what you're doing. You're saying, at least I'll take care of the body. It is a doorway to expand my realization, and because the body is where we experience life, living, right? So you mentioned vitamins, eating like a vegetarian, because it prepares the body for higher levels of information to come through. So the Buddha, when he does asana, sits in a lotus position and he has breath work. Those are important signals to you and me. So this is why yoga, tai chi, they start to prepare the body. Now in medicine, we don't talk like this. At the bedside, now I do. Before it was, what is your pain? What is your blood pressure? What is your body weight? Here's a prescription and bye-bye. See you in 3 months. I don't do that anymore. As far as possible, the doctor is now present and we hear much more into the story. The story is clues of information. Information about this person that is a doorway into what gives the meaning. The meaning is bigger things in their consciousness. We must go there. So, as an example, I will ask, you are here today in rheumatology. I'm a rheumatologist. I look after people with arthritis. So it is a question of, you're here today. What is one question in your mind that you want to solve today, that you want to resolve? And most people haven't thought about it, but when we give them the chance, they will give you much more information that is meaningful, that you can go there now. Not just a prescription, but to, as a relationship, me as a doctor, a patient, we have a relationship, we open up the question, you give them the chance. And that does take time. It isn't a 5-minute visit, 15-minute visit, and off you go, bye-bye. No. And I insist on that with any hospital or clinic. If I am employed, I say, I need time with every client. Don't rush me, don't uh, restrict me in the way I practice medicine. And they respect that. So I say thank you,
Mm.
because it's the only way I've found for true healing, to give them the chance to explore their own subconscious mind. It's not spoken.
Mm.
And so I think we will get there eventually, but we need time. That brings value to medicine, value, not just volume of 5 minute, 5 minute, 5 minute visits, but value to who is this human? What gives the meaning in their heart? What can we do to enlarge their soul and their lessons? So I will just stop there for a moment because I tend to speak a lot, Rafa.
No, it's perfectly fine. I'm the same way,
Yes,
and I'm also using the podcast as an opportunity to learn to listen more.
yes,
And um, I think something very important that you alluded to is the fact that we are, or that the chemistry, for example, that is so exalted in a way, is not what we are. It's the chemical reactions inside the body, and actually how this new change of paradigm that's occurring, um, is precisely that chemistry and the physical body is in fact the the final manifestation or the final
yes.
expression of more subtle processes that are happening, perhaps in the invisible light spectrum, perhaps.
Yes, well said. So we have to get this idea across, and you said it very nicely. We we are very, very enamored or excited when we have material things in front of us. Because in science, we have to measure things. We take temperature, we weigh it, we take a blood sample, we analyze the physical manifestation. It's the coarsest. It's the coarsest. The finer things that is in us, that is really the essence of human being, is in the invisible realms, the invisible consciousness, invisible energy, invisible information. How do we go there? And that's very hard for the medical sciences to really fathom. We get there a little bit through psychology, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And for me, as a rheumatologist, learning the physics of the acupuncture system, learning the physics of intention, it solidified that that invisible does direct the course. It does give a new blueprint to manifest the health. And we have to really give voice to it in medicine. We must train the younger doctors in this new language. And it may have to come from the physical sciences, such as physics. It's not going to come from medicine because, like I said, our whole mindset is chemistry. We're locked in and we're limited by chemistry. Okay? So chemical medicine is only the beginning. You don't leave the chemistry, you have to study it, no question. You study the anatomy, no question. But now we bring in the energy. By energy, I mean, the acupuncture meridian systems. Those subtle energy are the pump, they are the power to drive the chemical processes in the background. That's doing all the work. That's where the higher potentials reside, and they animate the chemistry. Okay, and then you add intention. Wow, now you're giving bigger pump, your intention. And then higher than that is spirit. Higher than that is our spiritual inheritance. We're spiritual beings having a physical existence, and it is this body that we explore, this world around us. Okay, this is the means. It's like Dr. Tiller, my physics mentor, said, it's like if you go into the deep oceans, you need a bodysuit, you need a diving bell, you have to have oxygen, you go into a tank, and then you go inside the deep oceans and explore. Like that, this body is our vehicle for this earth. We need this body, but it isn't us. It isn't us in the real sense. Rafa's consciousness and nishamanek's consciousness will survive when this body goes.
I remember in high school, when I was learning about quantum physics, and also now you remind me, when I was learning about chemistry, I remember learning those things started waking a kind of what I would call now a kind of religious consciousness within me, or a spiritual consciousness, like becoming aware that the things that they were teaching me,
Yes.
like for example how chemistry works, like how there are bonds between the molecules, between the atoms, and between the particles, and I remember thinking like, but what is moving all of that? The particles, supposedly they are not alive, so why would they? It didn't feel enough to be like, they just flow together because of the number
Yes.
of this or the number of that. It felt like kind of intentional in a way, because or like the fact that they would flow together and create life and create
Yeah.
people that could talk about it, that seems like a very very hard thing to happen just by accident. I don't know,
That's
all
right.
these things started, waking all of these questions in me.
So inanimate life has great potential to teach us about our own essence. You're right, and you are lucky somehow. As a youth, you found that it was your doorway to ask bigger questions, that how come these molecules dancing and exchanging, electrons and protons? What is animating that? Because we think they're not alive. In physics, we don't talk about life. In biology, we talk about life. There seems to be a separation in those two physical sciences. In biology, we talk about life and disease. Physics, we talk about atoms and molecules, and they don't talk about biology or life, right? But somehow these two have to meet somewhere. And you're asking a very important question. What gives? What animates the hydrogen and oxygen and all of those exchange of atoms and molecules and protons? And Tiller is asking the same thing. Dr. Tiller is a physicist. He was at Stanford University. He was the chair of the physics department there for many, many years, decades. So he's excellent in the conventional science. He knows mathematics. He knows physics. He knows materials. But he was a gift because he was also what I would say a rishi. A rishi in the Vedas is somebody who speaks and intends and makes things happen. So Tiller is a gift because he is a physicist and he is also a rishi. And he made things happen in his physics lab. And what is a rishi? He's a teacher. He is a mentor who is a truth seeker in the holistic sense. Physics, we look at fragments of life, a particle, but a rishi is looking at a holistic life. And Tiller manages to do both. He's a physicist and he is a rishi. And when I found him, I realized, wow, he is both scientist and a spiritual master. And this is somebody who's worthy of my attention. He is somebody worthy to understand his processes because he gives the mechanism of why these atoms and molecules are animated. And he showed in his lab that his intention changes things. His intention, his thinking, his refined thought has the power to change the hydrogen and oxygen of water. Imagine that. Just let's pause there because this is tremendous. And you're right. 2021, a new epoch is coming. We're in the phase of releasing old ideas,
mm,
old patterns. We must let them go. And I believe 2020 was the demolition phase.
mm,
It came so fast with the virus, and we have to look at our patterns. We had to retreat into our homes. And for many, this was an opportunity for meditation.
mm,
And Tiller is a meditator. He's a rishi who meditates for an hour every day. He's 92 now. He's still alive. He lives in Arizona. He's still alive, and he meditates sometimes 2 hours. So he went into the Bhagavad Gita. He went into the Bible. He went into the Psalms, and he asks, what is the clue? What is the gift of the scripture? And how do I bring that into my science? He's asking a very important question, which you are asking. How can these atoms and molecules, which are material things, how are they animated? And he found that we are the source of that.
mm,
Rafa, your consciousness and my consciousness has the power to change materials. That's a tremendous idea. And you know something? Billions of human beings on earth today do not understand this simple thing. They don't understand the power. They are so asleep. And it is a time that we waken up. And science is really showing that if you have this power, then wake up to it. You're not just a Homo sapiens asleep, Homo sapiens thinking, analytical, scientific mind. We are Homo spiritus. Homo spiritus. You, Rafa, is animating that experiment in quantum physics.
mm,
You are that observer. You are animating that material in front of you. But the real question in my mind now is, what is the quality, the tools of your perception you bring into that experiment? We have never asked that more basic and fundamental question. What is the content of consciousness, the quality of consciousness that we bring into the experiment? It's one thing to have all these tools and meters and gauges and graphs and computers. Tiller brought a quality of consciousness of the heart. He isn't about prizes and money and Nobel Prize, all that, But he said, no, let me find out the truth of my heart, the power of my consciousness. That's a very high level of consciousness. That itself is a perceptual tool. And we forget that. We forget. We're thinking, oh, let me bring this machine. Let me bring in this X-ray. Let me bring in this and this and this. No. But what is the quality, the tool of perception of the scientist himself or herself?
Yeah, I think we
I'm
have
going to just pause there for a moment. Yeah.
we have forgotten, or we're not aware in general of how important what you're saying is. How every scientist, for example, they come with their biases,
Yes.
with their background, with their own way of looking at the world, with whatever personal trauma they might have from their childhood, etc. And all of that gives a certain color to whatever experiment they are doing. And since it's not that common to do inner work, perhaps,
Yes.
all the experiments that have been done through time, they've all had a certain skew towards,
Yes.
not towards, but from the scientists themselves.
Yes.
And perhaps the results that have been gathered from all these experiments, they haven't been as clean as they think, perhaps, because
Exactly.
themselves have, right?
They project themselves onto the experiment. And I would say that sometimes there are agendas, funding agencies, journals, medical and other scientific journals, they have agendas. They have a subscription rate. They need to put out something, and they don't realize that these agendas interfere with authentic inquiry.
Mm.
And we are at a point we really need completely fearless inquiry. I can tell you that with my work with Intention and Dr. Tiller, we've been turned down. We don't get funding. Editors will criticize the work for minuscule things because they're not conscious enough. And this is what I recognized with Tiller. I recognized it right away, that he is a rishi and he is fearless. And it isn't about agendas. He's asking very clean questions.
Mm.
And he shows that consciousness is not locked in the brain. That is a tremendous jump. That is a tremendous jump in understanding.
Mm.
That consciousness is not emanating from a material thing, like a brain. Brain is a magnificent tool of perception. It has senses. This is why I can talk to you, Rafa. I can make sentences. I can move my hands around. It's because of my brain. But the consciousness is everywhere. It's a field. And so Tiller really expanded my own understanding and deepened it with a great respect, So you're right, the agendas, all of those things play into science, and it limits it. And I think we have to now, as human beings, really question science. And I think the pandemic has really made us question science. We've changed goalposts all the time, numbers to how you test. There's so many questions. It's not clean. Science is not black and white. We must really realize this.
I think there's times when, or there's certain conclusions drawn by scientists which are not scientific conclusions in themselves. I was trying to think of an example right now, and I'm not sure if I have one. But for example, what you said of consciousness being in the brain, for example, I don't think that it has been demonstrated scientifically in order for them to have that as a kind of starting point for other things. It hasn't been demonstrated that it's locked in our brain. So them taking that as the kind of part of their scientific way of thinking and running forward from there is unscientific in itself. And
Yes.
due to their own personalities and whatever, they are overlooking that small but important factor, I think, when they reach conclusions. The world is material. It hasn't been demonstrated that way. There's evidence one way and the other. And I actually think that reality is so malleable, this illusion, this Maya, that if you are convinced that the world is material, you will find evidence that it is material.
Yes.
If you're convinced that it is something else, you will find evidence for that. It's like all different kind of parallel realities and parallel interpretations are happening all at the same time. And when we connect together, two points perhaps of consciousness, like you and me, the two kinds of interpretations that we might have of reality, they kind of merge and
Yes.
give a seamless thing that allows us to communicate. But then when we go our separate ways, we go into our own parallel.
Yes.
I think.
So there, you mentioned a very important thing, that, as I've mentioned before, that we think of material things because it's so easy to see, to feel it, to taste it, to put our arms around it, but it's the invisible world that's more important. And I make the point in Bridging Science and Spirit that the material world is 5% of reality. 5%. Where's the other 95%? The standard model of physics, which is the most successful model to date, which is the particle accelerator, smashing particles, looking at materials, that's particle physics. That's the standard model. And the most recent discovery there was the Higgs boson. The Higgs boson is a particle that gives other things mass. That's really what it is. And that was in 2012. That's the standard model, complete. That's electromagnetism. Things are held together because of electromagnetism. That's material. But that's only 5%. What about everything else? This is a big limitation in traditional science. And we must really realize that. People don't realize that. They think this is it. No, it's not it. We have a lot more to discover, and Tiller gives the next rung in our understanding. That's the next stage. That's the electromagnetic material world. We have finished it. Now we are ready to jump ahead. The next rung is those alternate realities. You have ordinary reality, and then we have other realities. And he's giving some early framework to go there. And then I just want to mention with this other thing about the brain, and I have to admit, I was also thinking, I'm a medical doctor. I think consciousness is the brain. This is how we are trained. And then in 2009, that world was turned upside down, Rafa. For me, it just was thrown out the window. And what happened was the relics of Buddha were touring the world, okay? So I'm not Buddhist, but, I was curious. I thought, oh, it's a free tour. It's just up the road in Minneapolis. I was in Rochester, Minnesota. I was at the Mayo Clinic, and I went to Minneapolis to look at the relics of Buddha. I thought, oh, this is fun. This is going to be interesting. My life was never the same again, because I'm entering this little home. It's like a monastery. And the moment I entered the monastery, I could feel a certain presence. It's like a tremendous loving presence. It's like, I don't know, Buddha himself is there. I cannot but describe that Buddha, this loving, unconditional loving presence is there. That is tremendous in and of itself. Remember, Buddha has died 2,600 years ago. He's gone. Physically no longer here, right? That's what I thought. Consciousness is gone. I was wrong. Then I look at these objects in this plexiglass case. Okay, these objects. Rafa, these objects is like something like coming out and hugging you tightly. I fell to my knees. My mind went silent. I thought, how can this be? Actually, you could say I wasn't thinking, but later on I said, this is impossible. These objects are conscious. But remember, there's no body there. No physical flesh and bones and head and nose and ears in front of me. It's little pearl-like objects, and it totally changed my world upside down, because I realized consciousness is not in the brain here. These objects are conscious. Wow. And this is why I think Lama Zopa he felt, maybe, I'm thinking that these objects are in a monastery. They're for monks, Buddhist monks. How come ordinary people like you and me can observe them? Okay? And we feel something of our own nature. We're reflected back that this is our true nature, loving kindness. Unconditional. We don't want anything. We don't expect anything. We're just one, united, non-duality. You could have a taste of it. And that's what I felt. It changed my world. Yeah,
I can appreciate what you're saying. I had a similar, perhaps, kind of experience of unity, or to me, the way that I could express it after the experience was more than unity. It more felt like dissolution of myself.
yes.
I didn't feel one. I felt like everything, like larger perhaps than one, or or
Yes.
before one, uh, I had that experience, and, and so like along the path, starting from questioning physics and questioning the Big
Yes.
Bang, and okay, so everything started with the Big Bang, but what caused the Big Bang? I mean, it must
Yes.
have had a cause.
Yes.
uh, uh, and then from there, like having different experiences. For me personally, it was through the help of psychedelics and plant medicines, um,
Yes.
that awakened those experiences within me. But I was also lucky to have the experiences and not like idolize the experiences or the substances
Yes.
themselves, but actually
Very.
I was aware that I was everything, and then okay, it felt kind of, it was kind of like a fall, because it's like, well, but now I feel like I am separate again, and it's been like a big journey from there to try to learning to wake up that that perception within myself again, but now through meditation, through
Right.
sound healing, through yoga as well, um, and trying to live that daily, which has been proven, has proven to be a little bit
That's
hard
right.
sometimes.
You're going to make your own psychedelic experiences from your own consciousness.
Mm,
So let me just have a little word about psychedelics, because they're being researched in the United States as possible treatments for certain um, psychiatric conditions, and I think it's beneficial under controlled conditions. And there's no question that psychedelics can give you the taste of that unity, of not having this physical separate self. And it can be a doorway for a jump in consciousness, but also you have to be very careful, because unless you have done the work, as you said, you can fall. And the fall can be so hard, and you can actually go into a crisis. So I want your listeners to be very aware.
mm,
These things exist: alcohol, cigarettes, food, chocolate, sex, all of them exist. Be very careful. Have moderation and retract. The Bhagavad Gita says, have the sensual pleasures, but restrain. Have the wisdom to restrain and withdraw into your shell, so you can digest these experiences, so they can be information that's built into you, so you can rise beyond them.
mm,
Do not get limited by them. Go beyond them. And this is why I say, for psychedelics and all that, don't experiment, because they are, unless you have a guru, a teacher who can lead you through it, you're going to be alone,
mm,
and you can have a big crisis. Don't go there. So and I really appreciate what you said, Rafa, that you really question. You are very fortunate.
mm,
You have karma that
mm,
is very fortunate, that you recognized. You didn't hanker after that experience. And I'll tell you what happened to me after the Buddha relics in a moment. Rather, you said, oh, look, I can go into meditation, and I know I can really expand my own understanding step by step, because then you have built it into your bone marrow, literally into yourself,
mm,
which can never be taken away, and you will not have a crisis. Okay? For me, after the Buddha's relics, I was in a crisis. Honestly, I couldn't. I'm sorry, I'm wiping my nose here. It's cold and the sun is coming out. It's cold. But I was in a crisis because I had no interest in food. I had no interest in sleeping. I was suspended. I had the knowledge of this physical, but I was not interested in it. But I am a doctor. I have to go to a clinic. And so I prayed that this condition, this ecstasy be removed. I was in a kind of ecstasy, and I said, no, I had to pray for the state to be removed. I wasn't ready. I went into a crisis. And I discussed with Tiller. I called him. I said, what's going on? He says, you need to meditate.
mm,
You are not ready for higher states of consciousness, and you have been given the privilege, a taste of it. Now you must release. You must, you must go into your heart, because you have been given the privilege and a clue. The Buddha is the pathway of bhakti, the pathway of compassion. Do not be limited. And I'll tell you, we can get addicted to the relics. They're also a form of addiction. I want more relics. And I would go to every tour. In fact, the relics came to my home in Los Angeles. Okay, so we can become like, this is the only pathway. No, it is a taste. It's like the finger pointing to the moon, but the finger isn't it. Okay, you have to really, there are many ways. The relics were a way to really give me a sense of my true home. And for that, I say thank you. Ultimately, I had to do the work. Ultimately, that means, I would say, Rafa, one gift for 2021 for anyone listening to this, if I say one thing, yes, pick up Bridging Science and Spirit, but move in silence. Every day, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just be silent. Put yourself, you don't need any fancy equipment, no fancy procedures. Close the door, close your eyes, close your ears, and be in silence. Just breathe in, breathe out, in and out. The breath is your anchor. This present moment, present is a gift. The word present, right? I give you a present. You give me a present. This present moment is a gift. The word present, anchor into the breath and be there for 5 or 10 minutes and observe your mind. And we will notice that our mind is actually already silent. The mind's natural tendency is tranquility and serenity. So we have to ask ourselves, what disturbs the mind's natural serenity? And we realize that we have chosen a radio playing in one corner, and all our attention goes onto that radio, its frequency, its worries. We have chosen that, but we can leave the radio to just play in the background. Let it just play. And so we breathe in and we breathe out, and we just sink into the silence that is naturally our inheritance. We be there for about 5 or 10 minutes and make this the most magnificent time to know yourself. Master Jesus has said, know thyself. So we know ourselves. Yeah, it's wonderful. You know, it's very hard to talk after this. Ah,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Thank you so much for that short meditation. It was beautiful.
yeah.
And I think so. It's also, I also think it's super important to start incorporating that into our daily lives. As we spoke before, I've been working with bringing meditation to the workplace, and it's been a really beautiful experience and experiment for me to share meditation with people who had no experience in their lives, perhaps with it. Others had a little, but yesterday was the final one that I did this year, and I had really beautiful comments from people, I've had during the year, a few of them started using the techniques, for example, before they go to sleep, to like calm the mind down a little, to have a more peaceful sleep, and even to actually be able to go to sleep, because some people are having a hard time with that. And
Yes.
I was thinking also of the uh, how when we were speaking about psychedelics and the experiences, how important it is to actually be able to process the experiences, to integrate them. And you may a kind of an image came to me of just like food is information for the physical body. Perhaps the kind of states that we are able to access through psychedelics, for example, they are a kind of food, an informational food for perhaps our mental body. And and just like you do with food, that you have to digest it and it becomes your body. So you eat an apple and the apple becomes a piece of human body. um,
Yes.
you kind of, I wouldn't like to say consume, but you have an experience that nurtures your mind and feeds your mind, in the in the more spiritual sense of the mind, not the chattering mind, but our
Yes.
mental body. It feeds that body, and if you're able to process the information and digest it, it enlarges and it expands your mental body. uh, Whereas if you're not able to, you get a kind of mental indigestion, and then you might get into what you were saying of a kind of a crisis,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Mm.
And in the you we had in the beginning you had mentioned quantum mechanics and field is it's invisible, and field is a very tremendous idea for anyone listening to your podcast to understand. A magnet has fields. You have a field around you, an auric field, etheric field. This is informational. And when you go into silence, what happens is that you're going into the state of least excitement and you're approaching the field state. And the field is where creative potential resides. And physics has shown it is from the field that particles pop up. Where do you think matter comes from? I won't go into the Big Bang right now, but I can tell you it's the field. Go into the state of least excitement, and if you're there for a few moments, and you can enlarge that moment, now that intention will take root and you're going to change your life. Try it. Become the scientist in your own life.
Mm.
This knowledge should not be dead knowledge decorating you inside. No, it is past time for dead knowledge and more
Mm.
facts and all this. You have to activate the knowledge. So affirmations are just internal things. Intention is actually putting it out like an action. Action is full on action. You're now going to sit, you're going to breathe, you're going to watch your thoughts, and you're going to say, I choose something. I'm going to choose this. Whatever it is. Don't even judge yourself, but start making it manifest. And you're, working with people in corporations, people who can really have decisions, making decisions about priorities in a corporation. Do we put resources here, or do we put money here? When they go into silence, those uh, nuances will become apparent to them. A deeper reality is made known to them. Otherwise, they're going to get bounced around. So I really say that it's time past for dead knowledge, for collecting facts. It's time to become Homo spiritus. Not just Homo sapiens, but now become the spiritual being that you are. Because then your profits will rise. Then you can benefit the world. Then you're a gift to the cosmos. You'll be creating your own Big Bang. Move into the field. Go to the field.
I am reminded of the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've heard
Yes.
of it. Mm.
Yes, I have.
And I think really, I had this kind of aha moment watching his show and reading his book, actually listening to his book, and
Yes.
and I kind of feel like this the knowledge that he's sharing and that you're sharing about connecting with the field and starting to create our reality very much from the bottom up, like from there.
Yes.
I think this is one of the most powerful concepts, ideas, and tools that we have for this new age. That that
Yes.
that I believe it's this Aquarian age. It started. We are in it.
Yes.
It's like the very beginning of the golden age, and
Right.
and
Right.
and people starting to connect with the possibility that they can create their reality with their intention, with their thoughts and their feelings, and starting to cultivate that. I mean,
Yes.
the sky is the limit, as they say. I mean, we can create definitely heaven on earth with that.
Yes. So you're right. The golden age is unstoppable. And what we are witnessing is old patterns falling away,
Mm.
that humans are waking up and we are being speeded up. There's a quickening happening.
Mm.
And I would also say that it's like a top-down science. We say bottom up is we look at this, and we try to build, and it's an iterative model, the bottom-up science.
Mm.
But when I saw the Buddha's relics, I realized, wow, this is a very high reality. To understand that scientifically is like top-down science. The Buddha himself is, I jokingly say, the Buddha is my partner in science. He gave me a clue. If you're awake and you get it, you go, whoa, it's not about the body at all. It's important the body is here. I can talk to Rafa, but ultimately, as I rise in consciousness, I won't even need the body. I'll be everywhere. You can bilocate, you can fly, you can do all of these things because that's our inheritance. We have forgotten our inheritance. But we go step by step. We're in kindergarten right now. We will get there. We're going to be avatars. We have to be, because it's our ultimate reality.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, we have to be avatars. Great responsibility, but at the same time, a great excitement to
Oh, yes.
consider that.
Oh, yes.
Mm. And tell me a little bit more about the relics. I mean, it's such a big subject. We go into certain tangents that I love to explore also, but I want us to
Yes.
talk a bit more about the relics. So, do you know what their origin is? Is it like because I've heard stories of, for example, this master called Sai Baba, that he would like manifest. I don't remember really what kind of things, but things like from his mouth or from his hands. I don't remember.
Yes.
Do you think that the relics have a kind of similar origin, as in they were manifested?
They were manifested, and relics are remains of the Buddha masters. So when the master is cremated, the body is cremated, in the ashes they find little pearl-like objects. And we can actually, I have a little slideshow, and we can quickly go to some of the pictures there. And we can also end the slideshow. I put some pictures together because to really observe the relics, you might say the custodian is His Holiness the Dalai Lama and his heart disciple Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Okay, they made the decision to bring out the relics to a worldwide tour, and I say this is extraordinary because the relics belong in a monastery. They don't belong in a home like Nishamanek's home in Los Angeles, okay? But we were given permission, and many monasteries, many universities, many temples, many churches hosted the relics for almost 11 years. So hundreds and thousands, I think 2 or 3 million people observed and saw the relics. It's like the blessing of Buddha. I mean, his presence, I said, was felt, really present, timeless. It's not of this time, of this space, it's beyond space and time. Okay, so the essence of Buddha is with us now, this moment. It's a gift. So let me share. I think I can share my screen. Let's see if we can look at that. Um, okay, here we are.
Mm.
So, I bring this picture because that we have again looked at the brain, but this is not where consciousness is. This picture is of Professor Tiller of Stanford University. He is 92 and he lives in Arizona. I teamed up with him to really understand what is this relics all about. We needed a very high scientist. I told you he is like a rishi. He is a very high consciousness and who knows mathematics. This is a book cover, and this is Lama Zopa Rinpoche, okay? And he said people are deeply moved when they come into contact with the relics. This is definitely one way of bringing people to the self-realization. You're talking psychedelics, I'm talking relics, okay? We have different methods, but I would say we have to be very aware that we have to do the work.
Mm.
We must go there willingly to become, manifest our own magnificent reality, which is much bigger than this body.
I talked psychedelics and you talked psychorelics, right?
You could say that, yeah.
No, just
So
okay, just a
beyond the
joke.
brain, this is mind without the body. So these are the relics. These are so-called blood relics of Shakyamuni Buddha. These are 2,600 years old. This is a high-resolution picture that was given to me and my family as a gift, and almost looks like, little ball, little pearl objects. But if you just, I'll be just quiet for a moment. If we can just gaze at the picture, for me, it is very special. And I feel a certain kind of relaxation in my eyes, in my scalp, a kind of quietness. And so Lama Zopa says, when you gaze at the relics, you're gazing at Buddha himself. Extraordinary, really. And they're of Shakyamuni Buddha. This is, I believe this is a picture from one of the high monasteries, Buddhist monasteries in Nepal. Might be Kopan. So these are pictures of the Buddha's relics when they came to my home in Los Angeles. And as I write here, you find an intense awareness, like Buddha himself is there. And yet there are little objects. You can see little stupas. And you can see the objects here, like little pearls. And the state is nonverbal. I'm putting words because I'm communicating something. It is very gentle and it is firm like a rock. And it is a presence of silence. And it's limitless, infinite, infinite, infinite. This particular picture, this particular stupa, you can see many, many objects. These are the relics of the Buddhist council. It's like Master Jesus has apostles, the 12 apostles. Like that, the Buddha had a council, the first Buddhist council. And those Buddha masters, when they were cremated, these are the relics from the Buddhist council. And they're always multiplying. They're multiplying of their own, okay? They have rainbows, they're multiplying of their own. What's happening? They're alive. These objects are very, very conscious. They're sentient, as the Buddhists would say. They're sentient. So the essence of time ceases to exist around the relics. You really feel like this is no time. The space is different. It feels like you're in a cathedral. And this is amazing, that I felt a tangible radiation of loving energy from these relics to my heart center. And it's really personal, and it conveyed oneness, a unity.
Mhm.
And I think, Rafa, you are also describing that you had no
Yes.
sense of a separate Rafa. It was non-duality, experientially.
Yeah, exactly.
And really, I had no counterpart in ordinary experience. At least I speak for myself. People say, but I felt this in church. When I tell my patients, they said, "Oh, Dr. Manek, when I'm in deep in prayer,
Mm.
actually I feel this." And I went, "Whoa, okay." So it's wonderful to have that sharing, to have the commonality. We were meeting somewhere. This picture was taken when the relics, 1 week before they came to my home. They went to a Vietnamese temple. And here you can see a nun. She is giving a water offering to a Buddha statue in a water bowl. But look at this picture. Look closely, and you'll see this golden light all the way. Follow my cursor all the way on the left, and then you have these immense orbs as though blessing her. And each in this strong light, you'll see orbs of light. They're coalescing. It's like all of the Buddha masters coming and blessing this nun.
Mhm.
This picture calibrates very high. A lot of when I give talks and I project this picture, a lot of people say, "Whoa, that picture! I feel something very powerful happening." And it's in my paper. I wrote about the Buddha relics experience for a scientific paper, and I put this, and the scientist reviewers would say, I would say I would recommend publication of this paper because we know these things exist, but if anything for this picture, because it is communicating something very powerful. So even the scientists saying, "Whoa, wait a second, we have to publish this." We have a framework to understand that it is field effects and that the space is very important for consciousness effects to manifest. Okay. This is the poster of the relic tour that when it came to the Manek home, and you can see the Maitreya statue and all of the relics here, the pictures. This is the opening ceremony of the relics, and these are Shakyamuni relics that you hold above your crown chakra. You're being blessed. The senior monk from Minneapolis came to Los Angeles, and all of the people here, we're not Buddhist. We came for the opening ceremony. This is the case of Shakyamuni relics. Shakyamuni Buddha, Kasyapa Buddha before him. This is the picture of Rahula, his son. Okay. And so many people came, more than 3,500 people. We don't know who they are. We kept the doors open, and they all came like a big line, And the following pictures, we'll just go through them.
This was in your
And
home?
in our home, this is in
Wow.
our home. Yeah. The monks would bless you with the Shakyamuni relics. They placed them on your crown chakra.
Mm.
So many people came, children.
Mhm.
And we had testimonials, people were healing emotionally, physically, whatever their needs are, even they don't know. They come and they get a healing. And this gentleman, he had the dialysis. Within a week of coming to our home, his kidney function just miraculously improved. In fact, I called his nephrologist. I said, come on, let me ask his doctor, can this actually happen? What do you think is happening here? I asked his nephrologist, and his nephrologist, Dr. Kabibi, his name is Dr. Kabibi, and he said, I've never seen this, because once you have dialysis, this man is 79. At his age, he's diabetic. I have never seen this. They're dialysis for life. Okay? He said, it's a miracle. I didn't say that. His doctor said, I tell you, from one physician to another physician, we have never seen this. It is a miracle. And I can tell you it was a miracle. And there were many. There were many. This relics then came to our home in Nairobi, Kenya. This is the Minister of Home Affairs. I don't remember his name. And near him is this lady. She's the minister from Uganda. This is the head of the Buddhist temple in Nairobi, Kenya. And he's looking at the Shakyamuni relics. Again, the testimonials of the relics in Kenya was immense. This is Venerable Paula. She came to Nairobi. She's blessing the chair of the Hindu Council. Again, we placed the Shakyamuni relics on the crown chakra. Thousands of people lining for hours to view the relics. This is in Nairobi, Kenya. Okay. So this is one of the masters, the Buddha masters in the relic tour. This is Geshe Lama Konchok, one of the relics in the tour from this master. And he passed away, I think, in 2003. Forgive me, I may be wrong. But this is Geshe-la in Kopan in 2001. This is one of his last pictures. And this is his relic. And you can see this is his bone. And a new relic is forming from the bone. And then it will drop away and you get little pearl-like objects. And they radiate immense love. Wow. Geshe-la is very powerful. These are his relics from the tour. They're very, again, I actually feel lightheaded when I look at this picture. You can see like a pearl, okay, different colors. These are different attributes of Buddha consciousness. Pearls, black colors, they can be all different colors. And Geshe-la has reincarnated. Okay, and it's the subject of the movie Unmistaken Child. And if your viewers of this podcast would like to look at this, actually it's a movie you can rent, or it might be on Netflix. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, they searched for the reincarnation of Geshe-la, of Geshe Lama Konchok, and they found him. This is the child, and they take a piece of his hair. This is his reincarnation. He's alive today. So our physical body may go away, but he takes on a new vehicle. And so we have the relics again. This is Shakyamuni relics again. I mentioned this book because we're talking about that each atom has the capacity in that atom, the energy equivalent of the entire cosmos. You can do calculations. And I present this in my book. I won't go into it because we have so many things. You have to have a bridge. You have to have certain understanding. You build the understanding and then you come to this realization that, wow, science and spirit are together. So I say the relics answer the primordial question we have as human beings. Does consciousness survive physical death? And I say, yes, it does. Yes, it does. This is my book. I leave there. I think this was the final slide, but we went through a lot in a very short time, but that's okay.
That was beautiful.
I'm now really quite cold, Rafa.
Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. It sparks the question in my mind, like a following step is, could we even remember, like, not just consciousness continuing after death, but also memory? That would be an even more amazing step. Imagine if that little child could remember that he was the Geshe-la in a previous lifetime, and remember like conversations he had, what he had to eat for his final dinner or whatever.
In the Unmistaken Child, they go into how they investigate the candidates of Geshe-la's reincarnation. And that's exactly what they do. Foods, his mala, his shawl, and the child chooses. So he has memory of its previous high reincarnation life. And in Buddhism, And at least in the Tibetan tradition, they make a conscious choice to reincarnate to help other fellow human beings to reach. They are bodhisattvas. Okay, they are like mentors in this physical life. And that's why I think where Tiller is, he's a rishi. He says, I want to guide humankind to recognize that they are much, much bigger than this physical existence. They're much, much bigger than these atoms and molecules, that they are the source of the fields that we're talking about in physics. That once they know that they can spin suns and planets out of them. And we know that in the Gita, Lord Krishna shows that reality to Arjuna. Arjuna is confused and he says, help me, I don't know what to do because I see destruction everywhere. And Krishna says, Arjuna, do not be confused. You have to take action. You have to take action in the name of truth. And sometimes that truth is very difficult because it's destructive, it's bloodshed, right? And Arjuna is begging him, show me the reality of you because I'm confused. And Krishna shows him planets and suns contained within himself. And that was immense. And Arjuna is silent and sees the truth of his cousin and friend Krishna. It's a big gift. So I think Tiller is saying, and Buddha is saying, look, you're much more, but we will help you. But you must do the work. You must meditate. Go into silence. Do the work.
Very nice.
On that. It's a good place to end, actually.
Nishamanek, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. This was a great great podcast. I'm so happy to have had the opportunity to meet you, to talk, to connect, and learn about everything that you've shared today. I would really love to do this again soon.
Yes, let's reconnect. We will stay in touch. The new year is now. This is a good way to begin the new year. Each moment is a fresh, alive moment. Each one, so this is a wonderful opportunity that you have given me to just give me a chance to share what little I know. So I thank you for that. Thank you very, very much.
Have a great year.
Okay.
And we'll be speaking soon, all right?
You bet, Rafa.
Okay.
Take
Bye
good care. Bye-bye.